Welcome to Southpod, the first and foremost podcast created to tell the true story of tech innovation in the American South. Southpod is hosted by John Yarian and Stanfield Gray and produced by Dig South Tech Media. Dig South Tech Media is the South's tech hub, the place where leading global brands connect with the most scalable startups. Visit us at digsouth.com and follow us on social media at Dig South. The following episode features Jonathan Williams, the Senior Vice President of Accounts at Theorem, speaking to Dig Nation live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's dig into Southpod with Jonathan Williams.
So, without further ado, I did want to bring up Jonathan Williams here with Theorem. Fantastic company. I won't, share that because he's going to share with you what they do, and then he and I will do a quick fireside chat. And without further ado, Mr. Jonathan Williams.
Right. Hey, it's great to be here. I'm Jonathan Williams, and I'm the lone Theorem person that made it. For some reason, I thought it was a good idea to fly out last night, and hey, it seems like it was a good idea. I'm super happy to be here. I work with Theorem, and I imagine you may not know much about Theorem, so I want to take a few minutes. I just want to tell you about Theorem, tell you a little bit about myself, our involvement with Dig South, and I'm going to be a little more casual than these slides are going to appear. But part of that is, it's a smaller, more intimate group. I really want you guys to have some exposure to who we are. And my hope is I'll see you all in a few months, and then we'll have some drinks together, and we'll talk about all the cool tech stuff that all of us are doing. So Theorem is a product innovation company. And so when I say product innovation, in this sense, we do hardcore engineering from the ground up. So we build tools for our customers. We help them ideate what those tools can be. We do research. We help them understand and build out product management capabilities. And we've done it for a lot of great companies. One of my customers on here, I was actually speaking with Neil about this a bit earlier. One of my big customers on here is Apple. So I find myself out in Cupertino, once or so a month. And we have a team that has grown over the years where we started off just doing some very small things for them. And now if you go to any Apple store in the world, the software that we build for them, it runs the demo devices that you pick up. It runs the video wall. They're Today at Apple program. So if you've ever taken a class at Apple where you've learned photography or music, or another cool one that I went to was graffiti artist. If you want to do any of that stuff, that software is pumped through these stores, the service is pumped through the software we create for them. Any of their live streams, if you go to their store, that's happening based on the software we built. It runs the sound, the lights, the different themes that they have at the store. The exciting thing about that is less like, hey, we work with Apple, you don't. It's that, it's taken a while to try to build trust with Apple. Like, Apple is notorious for having strong opinions around design, strong opinions around how things can be built. I mean, people always ask me, so why do they have you build stuff? And the thing is, you guys are all in this space. You understand that Apple's core business, they build amazing consumer products. They don't have the best means to how to build up internal or customer-facing retail tools. Now, they've built up this retail presence, but now we've been able to partner with them along the way to help them build out meaningful tools. Another customer that I've worked with on here, and it's a small one, you may have never heard of this one, is MISO. MISO is one of 7 ISOs or RTOs, depending on what state you're in. It's called an RTO and ISO. They run the energy grid. So MISO runs everything from Manitoba, Canada, all the way down to Arkansas. They oversee a consortium of energy producers, power companies, the people that pump it into your home. If you've got a solar panel on your house and you want to make some extra money and you plug it back into the grid, then MISO is tracking how that's done, and they're ultimately doing some of the settlement. MISO, as you can imagine, these ISO companies, they carry a huge responsibility within the ecosystem. And so we were brought in to do a couple things. One, they were rebuilding their core system, so we were helping them build greater resiliency, and we were teaching them how to build with microservices. So that gets to the other thing we do. We do quite a bit of transformation, org design, and we were showing their teams how to build in a more agile product development way of working. I want to stop here. So I every now and then I'll intentionally date myself. And so out of college, I worked at Anderson Consulting, which is Accenture today, but some of you guys may know Anderson Consulting. I actually did 2 stints there because they bought the digital agency I worked at about 8 years ago. But one of the things I can tell you is a lot of the consulting companies that I've worked with, it's a lot of the same thing. You know, this idea, land, expand, try to grow the relationship, hire junior people, offshore as much work as you can. I mean, it's a model that's worked, and these companies have tens of billions of dollars to show that it's worked well for them. At Theorem, we really take an approach that we want to dismantle that way of thinking. So we don't want to work like any traditional consultancy. We're not a huge company, and so there's no reason for us to act that way. We want to dismantle that way of thinking. We want to work with our customers to really build something meaningful. And when it's time for them to own what they've owned, then we just move on. Either we found some other exciting project that we're helping them with, or they're going to tell their friends about how cool we are. I've gotten quite a bit of the customers I work with because they typically will tell their friends about how cool working with Theorem is. I talked a bit about this, so I'm going to just hit the slide and move on. Innovation and engineering. So we do everything from like software development, hardware configuration. We built, and I have a slide that'll talk a bit about this, we built AT&T's commercial IoT platform. So that's the consumer-facing IoT store. So if you wanted to buy some IoT gear from AT&T, that's something we built, as well as their internal capability where they track billions of data points in any given point in time, billions of devices. We built the back-end software that runs that for them. The strategy and transformation, I talked a tiny bit about transformation with MISO, where we were building some microservices. But the other part of that is I spend a lot of my time like traveling, and we'll do like this idea of responsive enterprise. Like you have these huge companies, they want some of the goodness that your organizations have. How can you move faster? So we try to help them. We usually start with teams. Like we're not McKinsey where we're talking to the CEO and helping them come up with some big strategy. We'll talk about teams. What tools do your teams use? How can your teams work better? And then we'll begin to work through multiple teams, or we'll begin to work with some of those managers. And then finally, research and design. And we've gone heavy here. And no one has patience for this, but like the research and design is kind of the secret sauce. Like if you can actually slow down and ask why, if you can get customers to focus on first principles again, what's the whole point of us doing this? Then you really get some insights that were kind of in your face, but they'll make a big difference in what you're ultimately building. A bit about Theorem. Again, I said we're not a huge company. We're just over 120 people. We've been around for, it's going to be 13 years pretty soon. We have a remote-first culture. So we don't have offshore centers. So our people, as you can see, are primarily, of that 120, I'd say, 120 plus, I'd say 95 of them are probably in the US, maybe 90, and there's a couple in Canada. For whatever reason, we've got like maybe 10 in different cities in Argentina. And it's always, I'm like, hey, Lucas, did you see Fede? He's like, Fede lives 1,000 miles from me. No, I didn't see Fede. But like, so we're kind of all over the world. And the whole idea for us is, because we have a remote first way of working, we cherry pick amazing talent. So one of my favorite engineers is a guy named Joe McIlvaine. He lives in Washington State, I don't know, maybe 3 hours from Seattle. He has a farm, it's about 30 people, breeds rabbits. Joe is a prepper. And so he's also a phenomenal database engineer. So Joe has helped me with Bloomberg and MISO and all of these clients that have massive data problems. Joe he wouldn't never work at Amazon or Microsoft. You're not gonna get a guy like him in Seattle. But because our whole approach is find amazing talent wherever they are, it's helped us be able to solve some of these problems for our customers a little differently. So these are some of our cities, and I was right. One of the hubs is Dallas. These hubs, it just means that we may have a physical space in a co-working space. So like Chicago, there are 4 of us in Chicago. I convinced them to let me open an office in Chicago. So a couple days a week, if I'm not traveling, I'm working out of a space, drinking free cold brew. Woo! Yeah. These are some of our offerings. I'm going to skip this. Hopefully, Stan, can you pass this deck out to anyone if they want to see it afterwards? Thank you. We've got some cool offerings. I don't want to bore you with them, but I'll point out 2. One is Prime. We were solving a lot of product management challenges. The idea of like moving beyond, we had a project, we finished, we have a project, we built something, here you go, we're done. We've tried to evolve our customers' thinking into like, you have a product, there's a life cycle to it, it lives, treat it like it lives. So we do a lot of training with like, how do you develop product managers? Like, what should your product managers begin to do? Proof is our staff aug company, so if any of you guys are interested in like doing anything and you have some extra time or you're interested in contractors, we do a lot of contract work under our Proof umbrella. It's not, that number isn't represented in the 120, but we do quite a bit of staff aug with companies like Amazon and Google and a bunch of other really great companies. They'll come to us and we'll find great talent for them. And I'll skip some. Oh, and finally, modernization discovery. I sell a lot of these, and it's a big focus for me because the idea of creating software for these big companies, it lives out there for a long time. They don't understand the need and the approach that you need to take to modernize. And the cost savings of having something that's easier to maintain. You have a larger development community you can tap into. All right, I'm gonna try to fly through a few of these, but we've had a presence, like Dig South is important to us, and the entire south of the southeast. I do quite a bit of work in Houston today. We've worked hard to maintain a presence over the years, and we've decided to invest quite a bit more in building out a relationship with Dig South and beyond. So we did some work with Mission Health. I don't know if you guys know Mission Health. They're huge. This is the area that they worked in. We built out their employee benefits platform for them. And the term I'm going to point out here too, the idea was a human-centric, so it wasn't just, here's the tool, log into this page, download these documents. It was really focused on how do people work and how do people really want to get this information. So we landed a team, we did quite a bit of that research and design, like really trying to understand how folk were working before we came up with just solving the tech problem. I spoke a bit ago, let's see if it's still working. I spoke a bit ago about the AT&T work we did, and there's a bunch of teams we've landed at AT&T over the years, like the consumer IoT store you can go to, m2x.att.com. And then there's their internal, the back end of how do they like manage devices. So if you buy products from them, you can buy IoT services from them. And again, you'll have this deck. Caterpillar's one of our long-term customers. Caterpillar sends millions of dollars of inventory all around the world. And when that stuff when it's waiting on a loading dock somewhere, like construction sites, like it's a huge cost. So we created an asset tracking tool for them so they can know where they can let their customers know where these shipments were. I am going way too slow, so I'm gonna pick this up for you guys. My colleague that's not here today, FK, I wanted to just mention him because FK he's had the good fortune to build relationships with the Dig South team. He attended Dig South last year. He's actually become one of my favorite folk at Theorem. We just got back from CES together, so this was going to be our second road show this year together, but no availability, I guess. But the thing is, he's been in the technology consulting space for well over 20 years. He's worked with a myriad of companies and trying to understand and solve their unique challenges. And he highlighted a few of those. I thought it was important to share because FK is, he's a Charleston born and raised technologist, and he takes the importance of this area and his community fairly seriously. A bit about me. I think I mentioned, I'm 20 years in the technology game. Another way I like to date myself is I used to work at Lucent Technologies when that meant something. The thing I really want to call out, though, is like for me, it's not about trying to convince or sell something. I really try to build a level of trust and long-term relationship with my customers. And I just want to highlight Cisco Foods, for example. I worked with Cisco, I worked for Cisco. They were one of my customers 7 years ago at a different company. And, I built relationships with their leadership, and I built trust, and as a result, they've stayed with me as I've transitioned jobs, and they know that I'm going to, at the end of the day, bring meaningful people to their problem, and I'm not going to be looking to sell a bunch of stuff to them. That's been actually a fairly consistent thing that I found at my time at Theorem. The same can be said for my relationship with Bloomberg. Bloomberg's a newer relationship for me. I started working with them 2 years ago. As people have left there and gone to other companies, they've called me. And so it's the same type of things that you experience, but you only get that when you've established trust and you're really trying to solve your customers' problems. So here's a letter that we wrote, and I'm going to share this with you as you get part of our deck. But it's like Theorem's commitment. Like FK's experience at Dig South, he's brought that back and become a powerful advocate for why we need to be there, why we need to become part of the community, and why we need to bring something, like why do we need to offer something within that community. One of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to host a panel. So we'll have a workshop at Dig South. We'll have a booth. We're going to be spending a lot of that energy on product management. So we're going to be doing a bit of a class on product management and product ownership. So if you're interested, you can come, and I'd love to see some of you guys and find out a bit more about how we approach that.